Some Chicago Bears fans have felt a little bit underwhelmed by Rome Odunze's rookie season so far. So I think the bye week is a good opportunity for us to take a step back and evaluate this rookie class as a whole, where pretty much all of them are right on track.
You are Locked On Bears, your daily Chicago Bears podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On Bears, and I'm your host, Lauren Cox. I'm here to bring you your daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. You can follow me on Twitter at CoxSports1. You can follow the podcast at Locked On Bears on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and the Locked On Bears YouTube channel, where you can keep up with all of our video podcasts as well. Thanks for making Locked On Bears your first listen today. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use our promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. On the show today, we give out some early grades for the Chicago Bears rookie class. Not like grading how they are as a draft pick, whether they're a bust or a boom or whatever, but just through the first 6 weeks of the year. How have they done versus the expectations you might have had for a rookie drafted in their slot, whether it be any other team, any other situation? How is Caleb Williams doing compared to what we should expect from a number 1 overall pick quarterback? How is Rome Odunze doing compared to what we should expect from a number 9 overall pick wide receiver? And obviously, the later in the draft you go, the lower the expectations should be. And so the grading is adjusted to that as such. We should always start with Caleb Williams at the top of this draft class. And it's someone we've talked about quite a bit every single week. He is the biggest story of this team. But I think now that we're 6 weeks in at the bye, with a slow start and a very hot finish, or the most recent, showings, not over yet, but up to now, most recently it's been very hot. I still find myself coming back to an A grade for Caleb Williams. And I think the slow start is the only thing that keeps me from making it an A+, is because the first couple of games weren't really what we wanted. But I think the growth and the progress and the performances we've seen over the last 4 games really gives me the kind of confidence and assurance in this quarterback and his development to make it an A, because not only has he been very good, great in the last 3 or 4 games here, he's been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL in the last 3 or 4 games here. Like, statistically speaking, his production, his ability in these games has been among the best in the league, not just the best among rookies or the best, among all-time rookies or whatever it might be. No, best in the NFL when it comes to things like expected points added and completion percentage above expectation. There's only one quarterback that's really been better than him since week 4 in both of those stats, and it's Jared Goff of the Detroit Lions, who's had incredible performances with 80+ completion percentage and all these really big stats. He's in the MVP conversation now. But like if you chart him out with every other quarterback from weeks 4 through 7, he is second in completion percentage above expectation, and he is second in EPA per play. That includes passes and runs and penalties. He's right on the same trajectory, but just a little bit farther ahead of Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, and Jaden Daniels, are all kind of in this second cluster after Jared Goff, right behind Caleb Williams. But there's plenty of really, really strong quarterbacks much, much farther down in a lot of the best ways we have to measure effective quarterback play. Certainly, Patrick Mahomes has kind of been disappointing for a lot of the season, but he's a lot farther down there. Kirk Cousins is farther down there. Sam Darnold's farther down there. Jordan Love is farther down there. Geno Smith, Dak Prescott, etc. You just keep going down. It's Goff, then Williams, then Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Jaden Daniels. That's the company Caleb Williams has been in over the last 3 weeks. Now, the last 3 weeks has not been the entirety of the season, and that's valid. And the last 3 weeks have not been against top NFL defenses. They've been against bottom NFL defenses. That's also valid. But that being said, other quarterbacks have played these bad defenses and have not had as strong of performances as Caleb Williams has. And I think more importantly, the type of growth and development he is showing is the kind of stuff that is sustainable for his long-term future. It's not just, the Jaguars and the Panthers are leaving wide open receivers, and so Caleb is just taking advantage of a bad defense by hitting easier wide open throws that aren't going to be there against better opponents down the stretch. No, it's the stuff he's doing when it comes to changing protections and plays at the line of scrimmage, checking in and out of runs, having answers for when the defense is going to blitz him or what coverage the defense is in, getting the offense into great plays pre-snap and then post-snap, going through his progressions, making quick decisions, getting the ball into the hands of playmakers, and then more importantly, like looking off safeties and hitting difficult tight window throws. That there's going to be plenty of difficult throws and tight windows against better defenses too, and he's been able to hit those regardless of the quality of opponent here. Like the things he has been able to build on for himself has been so encouraging in the ways like he's doing things already in week 6 for him and now week 7 in the NFL that other rookie quarterbacks don't do in terms of the command at the line of scrimmage. We're seeing him do things that previous Bears quarterbacks like Mitch Trubisky and Justin Fields haven't been able to do. It's the kind of stuff that it doesn't mean he's going to be perfectly, this level of successful against the better defenses, but it does mean he has gotten over some hurdles and gotten through some development points here that are going to last throughout the rest of his career that some quarterbacks just don't even ever get to, and that will help him play better against those better defenses as well, but it's no guarantee that he's going to have 300 yards and 4 touchdowns against the Lions or the Vikings or the Packers in those divisional games, but he'll be much more prepared to take on what those teams are going to throw at him based on what he's been able to do already this season. And that's where I come back to an A. It's a little bit less about the box score stats, the 300 yards and the 4 touchdowns or whatever, and it's a lot more about development. That's always been the goal for year 1 for Caleb Williams. We've talked about it from the moment they drafted him. 2024 is not supposed to be the Bears' year to truly compete for a Super Bowl. This year has always been like, hey, if you make the playoffs, that'd be nice. But really, this year is all about developing Caleb, getting him to be the best version of the quarterback he is so that you can feel like you're comfortably set at that position for the long-term future. The development he has made from week 1 to week 6 is what earns him an A grade so far. The performances we've seen the last few weeks against bad defenses is almost just like a cherry on the top because it's more about the development within those games than the actual yardage and touchdowns and passer rating totals, which have also been great and also really rewarding to see that payoff, even when the real payoff is what's on film that isn't always captured as well in the box score. So that's where it's really easy to be confident in Caleb Williams moving forward, even as the quality of opponent continues to get better. It's why we talked last week about sort of the Caleb Williams versus Jaden Daniels debate for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Now, Jaden Daniels' injury on Sunday changes that quite a bit, but even before the injury, they were neck and neck, and Caleb Williams was already pulling ahead, as evidenced by the EPA and completion percentage above expected as well there. So I don't think there's too much disagreement about the confidence level in Caleb Williams in Chicago. I've sensed more of that with Rome Odunze, given that, okay, maybe the receiving yards aren't quite where you want them to be, and some other rookie wide receivers that were drafted after him that have more yards or whatever. And so, okay, is something wrong with Caleb? Is something wrong with Rome? Did the Bears get the wrong guy? I think it's easy to get a little too carried away with 6 games worth of production here, with also not taking perfect stock of what some of the other he's not the only rookie wide receiver who isn't blowing up, but I still think he's having a good season. So we'll take a closer look at what Rome Odunze is doing and why, it's not blowing you out of the water, but he's right on track where you should expect him to be at this stage of the process. Next on Locked On Bears. This episode of Locked On Bears is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, America's #1 sportsbook. And right now, FanDuel is getting your season rolling with a big return because they're going to give you $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet on FanDuel. That can be a bet on anything, whether it's any of your other favorite sports. Of course, you can look to this Bears-Commanders game where right now the Bears are favored by 2.5 on the road on FanDuel Sportsbook, with the money line set at Bears minus 154, the over-under set at 44.5. I think this Jaden Daniels injury situation is going to keep moving the line throughout the week, so place your $5 bet when you're the most confident, and whether that bet is correct or not, you're going to get $200 in bonus bets added right back into your account. All you got to do is go download the FanDuel app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use, and then you're going to place that $5 bet, and no matter what, you're getting $200 guaranteed added in. So head on over to FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. Locked On Bears is also brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs, because LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. I'm a member of LinkedIn. I bet you're a member of LinkedIn too. And if you're not, that's okay. But a lot of your friends, family members, and coworkers are all a part of the LinkedIn community. And that's why LinkedIn isn't like other job boards, because LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. So hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Rome Odunze is doing just fine. I don't think there's anything to be worried or panicked about. And I'm guessing most of you listening to this right now think, well, what? Yeah, is there like who's panicking about Rome Odunze? And like, unfortunately, in the social media world, people always want to find things to be upset about, and you can find plenty of tweets and Facebook comments about Rome Odunze, especially because Brian Thomas with the Jaguars has 500 yards, and Rome Odunze has half of that this season, and Brian Thomas has 4 touchdowns, and Rome Odunze has 1, and all of a sudden, did the Bears take the wrong wide receiver? And of course, we've seen Malik Neighbors be excellent, phenomenal this season. He's got over 400 yards and 3 touchdowns as well. There's going to be other rookie wide receivers that play well. And the first 6 or in some case 7 games of their career will not determine who the better wide receiver is over the entirety of their careers. And also, I don't know that the receiving yards and touchdown stats for 7 games even reflects who the better players are right now, because so much of production, especially for wide receivers, is about quarterback play, offensive line play, the offense's performance in general, and also just your role within that offense, right? Rome Odunze in Chicago is really the number 3 wide receiver and maybe the number 4 overall receiver. If you're talking about DJ Moore's the number 1 guy, Keenan Allen's the number 2, and then it's a debate, is Cole Kmet or Rome Odunze, the third option in the offense? I don't think it's worth hashing that out right now, but nonetheless, there are at least 2 guys very clearly above where Rome Odunze is in the pecking order in Chicago. Comparatively, Malik Neighbors is the number 1 option with the Giants, their go-to guy when he's been healthy. Obviously, they're going to feed him the ball a lot. He gets a lot more opportunities, a lot better opportunities. He's earlier in progressions, and he's getting the focus of the quarterback quite a bit more than someone like Rome Odunze. Even Brian Thomas in Jacksonville has really kind of emerged as more of their number 1 option. Yeah, they have Gabe Davis and Christian Kirk, but I think if you put Rome Odunze in that offense instead of Brian Thomas, he might be good enough to be their number 1 option as well. This isn't just, yes, Brian Thomas has been great, and I'm not here to take anything away from him, but more so a good rookie can come into a receiving core like that where maybe there's guys that are a little underwhelming and he can emerge past them. Whereas I think if you put Brian Thomas Jr. in Chicago, he's still not getting past DJ Moore, maybe above Keenan Allen. Allen's been hurt, so we haven't really seen the full Keenan Allen unveiled, I think, just yet there. But I do think in terms of quarterback options, Rome is still at best, number 3 in that mix for Chicago. So I don't know that the receiving yard stats are the perfect way to measure this. Although I do think you can find some solace in the idea that Rome Odunze and, say, Marvin Harrison Jr. with the Cardinals are really not far apart at all. And Marvin Harrison Jr. was the prize of the wide receiver class, the first wide receiver taken off of the board here. But entering Monday Night Football, spoiler, I'm recording this before Monday Night Football when the Arizona Cardinals were playing, so these stats will update because Harrison Jr. will have one more game than Rome Odunze did. But through their first 6 games, because Rome's off this week, so you can't do 7 games versus 6 games. Through their first 6 games, Rome Odunze has 17 catches for 246 yards. Through their first 6 games, Marvin Harrison Jr. has 17 catches also for 279 yards. The main difference there, that's 33 receiving yards is the difference between Rome Odunze and Marvin Harrison. Now, I'll give you, Marvin Harrison also has 4 touchdowns. Rome Odunze has 1. I think that also has a little bit more to do with where Marvin Harrison's role is in that offense, where again, kind of their number one target, it's him, Michael Wilson, and Greg Dortch. Marvin Harrison Jr. is their number one option guy. And the fact that Marvin Harrison is their number one option and Rome Odunze is the Bears' number 3, and they have the same number of catches and almost the same number of yards, I think says a lot more about Marvin Harrison Jr. than it does about Rome Odunze. But also worth noting, Rome Odunze has more yards after the catch than Marvin Harrison. He's forced more missed tackles as a receiver after the catch. He has a deeper average depth of target. I think he's catching a better rate of contested catches so far this year. A lot of receiving stats that have Rome Odunze equal to or ahead of Marvin Harrison Jr., just not receiving yards and touchdowns. So, which again, it's not the perfect measurement of wide receiver play at this point. Like, you can also look at things like separation. Got places like PFF and others chart wide receiver separation. Next Gen Stats does as well, I think, to try to get a sense of, okay, on any given route that they're running, how well do they create space for their quarterback to throw to? That does a good job of sort of separating, okay, pun intended, separating the wide receiver's individual ability from the quarterback's ability. Because you could be a great wide receiver who gets a ton of separation, but if your quarterback never throws you the ball, even if you're open, you don't get the stats, despite doing your job by creating the separation for the quarterback to throw to. Whether it's the offensive line, preventing the quarterback from getting the ball out when he needs to, with the quarterback not seeing him, or whatever it is. Like, if you look at just sort of separation separately from receiving, you can get a little bit of a better sense, or at least another slice of an angle of how different wide receivers are performing. And you look at like Rome Odunze so far this season, he's kind of like right near the middle of the pack in terms of separation against, like, if you look at like separation facing single coverage, he's right around where DJ Moore is in terms of how well he's creating separation. Like, if you look at the receivers that are kind of clustered around him in that stat, very similar numbers as Marvin Harrison Jr., I should say, as DJ Moore, as Xavier Legette, as CD Lamb, only separates slightly better than what Rome Odunze is against single coverage so far this season. George Pickens is right in that same range as well. And it's ahead of guys like Gabe Davis of the Jaguars and Tank Dell of the Houston Texans, ahead of Tyreek Hill of the Miami Dolphins, albeit not having a super great season for him as well. So you can kind of get a sense that, like, no, Rome Odunze is not a top 10 separator in the NFL right now by any means, but like, he's right on track of where he needs to be. For a 9th overall pick in his 6th game, or now entering his 7th game, like, he's creating pretty decent separation. He's producing decently enough. And I think most importantly for Rome Odunze, he's had the big game that has shown you that he can do it, that he and Caleb are on the same page, that he can have the big shot. Like, he can take advantage of the big opportunity when it's given to him. It's not like, oh boy, we're still waiting to see if Rome Odunze's got it. We just haven't seen, like, no, against the Indianapolis Colts, he had 6 catches for 112 yards and a touchdown, including a 47-yarder in that game. And that was one of the games that Keenan Allen missed, I believe. And so, like, we've seen the proof of concept that, okay, Odunze can make the big plays and can also be on the same page as Caleb Williams if the Bears give him the opportunities to do so. But outside of that Colts game, he hasn't had more than 6 targets in a game. He just hasn't had the ball thrown his way all that much, and therefore hasn't had nearly as many opportunities as some of these other wide receivers to have the kind of production to get on Brian Thomas Jr.'s level there, to get on Malik Neighbors' level there. I mean, Rome Odunze has 29 targets. Malik Neighbors has 59 targets. That's more than double the number of balls have been thrown to Malik Neighbors' way as it's been to Rome Odunze's way. So that's where production can be tricky, and I think it's why we can trust that, hey, Rome doesn't need to have been built in a day here, right? Like, he can have more than 6 games to show us who he's going to be as a wide receiver. The same is definitely true, and I suppose I haven't given him a grade here. I'll give Rome a B. It's a solid B. He's doing fine. It's not an A+ season. Okay, that's fine. He doesn't need to be an A. Not every rookie needs to be an A+. That's okay. Rome has had a solid B rookie season. But I think that patience is going to be necessary, especially for the other 3 Bears draft picks. Karan Amagazi, to a lesser extent, Tory Taylor, but also Austin Booker. And I want to go through where those guys are coming along right now based on the expectations we should have for a 3rd, 4th, or 5th round pick next on Locked On Bears. The Locked On Bears podcast is brought to you by our friends at Gametime. Gametime is the best way to get tickets for all of your favorite live events. I have the Gametime app on my phone, and I use it all the time. I used it last year to go to Bears games. Been using it a lot to go to concerts this summer. Been going to comedy shows that I'm getting tickets on Gametime with recently. Coming up this week, I'm going to go see the comedian Mike Birbiglia with my mom and dad and my girlfriend. Really looking forward to that. It's a kind of a birthday present for my mom that we're really, really looking forward to. And I got my seats on the Gametime app because with Gametime, I could see my view from the seats in the venue before I bought the tickets. So I know exactly where we're going to sit and what we're going to see from those seats. And I also knew exactly how much I was going to pay because Gametime lets you turn on all-in pricing. So there aren't any added fees at the end of the checkout process that make the tickets cost way more than you thought they would. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use our promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem our code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. It's most important that Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze play well and pan out for the Chicago Bears, given their investments as top 10 picks. But that doesn't mean there's not a real importance to your 3rd, 4th, and 5th round pick guys panning out. Like I think we all pretty reasonably expect that anybody drafted in the 5th, 6th, or 7th round is a lot less likely to be special, especially the 6th and 7th rounds. 5th round is kind of the gray area, but like you still kind of think that 2nd, 3rd, and 4th round players should pan out into something, and then 5th round players a little bit more kind of grab baggy there. So like that's where it gets a little bit tricky for me with somebody like Karan Amagazi, the Bears' 3rd round pick, the offensive lineman out of Yale. He has now played a little bit this season, but hasn't played very much. The Bears told us after they drafted him that they knew he was injured, that they knew he wouldn't be ready for rookie minicamp, that he wouldn't be ready for OTAs. But after they drafted him, they told us that the plan was for him to be ready to go for training camp. Obviously, he was not ready to go for training camp, and he missed all of the preseason. And for that, I think the Bears deserve some amount of criticism for. Because either they misevaluated the injury and they got it wrong, or they misled us and knew it was going to be worse, but intentionally told us that it was better than it actually was. And I guess that one is slightly better, but it's not much better either way. And I get like medical stuff is always tricky, but I just think generally speaking, when you draft an injured player, when you draft a player who you know is currently injured, not necessarily a player with an injury history, but a player who, as he's coming to your team, is dealing with an injury, it just generally doesn't tend to go well for teams. Now, that being said, it's been 6 weeks, and 6 weeks of not playing is not a grade for Karan Amagazi. Like, he has to be an incomplete grade at this point because we just haven't seen him play. To be fair, he has now played on offense in 3 games so far this season for a total of 9 snaps. He has come in as a tight end in a couple of games, and he came in victory formation in each of the last 3 games. So he has played offensive snaps in the NFL, but not very meaningful offensive snaps in the NFL. And it just gets a little bit harder to swallow when you look at some of the other offensive linemen who were drafted after him, who are playing varying degrees of decent. Not long after him, Delmar Glaze, who's now going by DJ Glaze, was drafted by the Raiders. He started 4 games for them. A little bit later in the 3rd round, Zach Zinter was drafted by the Browns. He started the last 3 games for them. And then the 49ers have started a rookie 3rd round pick all 7 games this season. Dominic Pooney was the late 3rd round pick for them. So it's just a little bit tough when it's like, man, the Bears really could have used a healthy 3rd round pick offensive lineman that could have been in the mix to start, that could have been competing at right guard, that could have been competing at center, could have been competing at any of these positions on this offensive line, and Karan Amagazi wasn't able to. Now, again, he's a 3rd round pick, Not all third-round picks come in and have instant impacts. A couple other offensive linemen drafted after him, not playing much. Matt Goncalves, I can never pronounce his name from the draft. The Pittsburgh offensive tackle that the Colts ended up drafting. And then Christian Haynes was drafted by the Seahawks. He hasn't played much this season either. So, yes, not every third-round pick comes in and is a great starter and is a solution for your offensive line. But just feels like for this Bears team in particular, at that position in particular, with a third-round pick, it would have been nice to be able to squeeze just a little bit more out of that. But there's still plenty of time for Karan Amagazi to develop into a starting caliber NFL player down the line and make that draft pick well worth it. So I'm not here today to write him off completely and call him a bust and do any of that stuff. The grade for Karan Amagazi is incomplete. We've talked a little bit before on the podcast about the grades for somebody like Tory Taylor, the fourth-round pick as a punter, and I've been critical of that draft pick from the moment they made it. I'm still not convinced that a fourth-round pick was worth a punter, but if we just look at Tory Taylor separate from that, look at how he's done as a punter this season, I'm willing to go B grade for Tory Taylor. My instinct is to go C, but I'm willing to give him some bonus points for the clutch situations in which he's flipped the field. Like when the Bears have needed a good punt from Tory Taylor, they've gotten them this year. But a lot of his punting metrics have been a lot closer to average, which is why I would normally lean like a C grade there. But I think he's come up in some big moments, so I can certainly make it a B. He's been a good holder for them as well. But he ranks average in the NFL in yards per punt, slightly below average in net average yards per punt, average in hang time, average in expected points added on punts. He's right in between 20th and 14th in pretty much every major punting stat. He's not really a top 10 punter in the NFL right now. And he's a rookie fourth-round pick. In theory, any other rookie fourth-round pick at a different position shouldn't be expected to be a top 10 player at their position to start. Now, we get back to like a punter being worth a fourth-round pick, better be a really special punter, and he hasn't been a super special punter. He's been a very good punter and an upgraded punter, but not like a super special punter. He's just been solid for them. But again, we've also talked about he's not the best rookie punter in the NFL this season, and he was the first rookie punter taken in the draft, and there was an undrafted rookie free agent punter who's having a better season than him. I believe, if I remember correctly, it's the Cincinnati Bengals punter Ryan Reckow is statistically above Tory Taylor in pretty much every punting category, and that's what makes it a little bit disappointing that he hasn't been as dominant as even other rookie punters, and certainly not among the top 10 punters in the NFL this season. So I don't know, maybe I'm talking myself into a C grade, but it's definitely not anything worse than that for Tory Taylor. And then we come to Austin Booker. Your fifth-round pick, the Bears traded a future fourth to get back into the fifth to take Austin Booker out of Kansas. It's been quiet from Austin Booker, but as we were talking about earlier, like we're talking about a fifth-round pick, and it's pretty rare for a fifth-round pick to come in and be great. Not very many fifth-round picks even play all that much as their rookies during their rookie season. So I don't think there's any reason to be super disappointed in someone like Austin Booker at this stage of the process. Like, he has a sack, he has a hit, he has a quarterback pressure. There aren't any other fifth-round picks that have more sacks than him. There aren't even any fourth-round picks that have any sacks so far this season. Among rookies so far this year, there are only 3 rookies that have more sacks than Austin Booker. It's Latu from the Colts, and then Jonah Ellis from the Broncos, and the Packers rookie Edgerrin Cooper. But Dallas Turner from the Vikings only has 1 sack. Jared Verse from the Rams only has 1 sack. Some big name guys ahead of him haven't produced in the sack category specifically that much more. They've got a lot more pressures. Their pass rush win rate is higher, and Austin Booker has a really low pass rush win rate so far this season, but that's okay. He's a 5th-round pick. He's the 4th guy in the defensive end rotation. They're okay. It's not a big deal. I'm not angry. I'm not upset. I'm not critical of what Austin Booker's been able to do so far this season. And he's made some nice hustle plays, and he's made some good plays in the running game as well. For him too, the CB range is fine. He hasn't been an A 5th-round pick, and that's okay. Not very many 5th-round picks end up being A caliber players, but he's in the C+, B- kind of department for me right now, and that you hope that over the course of his career he keeps getting better, but we knew he would be more of a raw prospect, somebody with some nice tools, but that wasn't going to be a finished product the moment he stepped on the field in Chicago. We saw some flashes during the preseason. We've seen a couple of flashes during the regular season. We'd like to see more, but opportunity is also a big part of this too. When he's getting less than 20 snaps per game, he just hasn't had a lot of chance to perfectly show everything he's been capable of, and maybe he hasn't earned more snaps than that, and okay, fine, but fifth-round rookie, I'm not overly concerned. I was a little surprised. I kind of forgotten going through this process too that normally we might have like an undrafted rookie free agent on the team that we could grade here too, but none of them made the 53-man roster for the Bears. So it's just those 5 rookies at this point. And so I think overall, right, a lot of B's, and that's fine. Like, it hasn't been A plus, every rookie is completely dominating from start to finish, but like every rookie is either playing well or on their way to playing well or hasn't played yet because it's Karan Amagazi. And like that's sort of an incomplete grade that's not going to bring down your grade point average. So far, so good with this rookie class. And we can still be patient about it and understand that, hey, like just because they haven't had huge production just yet doesn't always mean that they're not good players who are playing well and developing and making big progress week in and week out. So hopefully that can alleviate some of the hand-wringing about Rome Odunze, and I think we're all confident in Caleb Williams, and it'll give us something to watch for here with Amagazi and Tory Taylor and Austin Booker moving forward the rest of the year. We got to start turning our attention here to the Washington Commanders coming up this week. We'll have crossover Thursday with David Harrison from Locked On Commanders about what all is going on with Jaden Daniels' injury situation, what we know, his odds of being able to play, and if he doesn't play, what we can expect from Marcus Mariota in that offense. It'll be a lot to break down with David from Locked On Commanders. So make sure you hit the subscribe button here on Locked On Bears, whether it's on the YouTube channel or wherever you listen to podcasts. That's going to be the best way to keep up with all of our daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. Thanks for making Locked On Bears your first listen today. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Coming back tomorrow, make Locked On Bears your first listen once again for another opportunity to bear down.